The silence of New Horizon Colony was shattered by the first wave of alien ships. Massive metallic structures blocked out the twin suns, casting long shadows across the terraformed landscape. Captain Hyun Park stood on the central defense platform, his hands gripping the command console with white-knuckled intensity. The Krell attack came without warning. Massive energy weapons carved through the colony's protective shields like they were made of paper. Residential complexes erupted in brilliant explosions, years of human settlement turning to ash and molten debris in seconds. Families who had spent decades building their lives on this distant planet now ran through burning streets, desperate to survive. Jae Kim, a young communications specialist, worked frantically at her terminal. Alarms blared. Smoke filled the control room. She knew their chances were slim, but survival meant sending a message, a record of what happened, a warning to humanity. All units, this is New Horizon Control, she transmitted, her voice steady despite the chaos around her. We are under full-scale invasion. Unidentified alien force has breached primary and secondary defenses. Civilian casualties estimated at... A massive explosion rocked the building, sending equipment crashing to the floor. Captain Park grabbed the emergency pulse rifle. "Everyone who can fight, take positions," he shouted. A group of colonists, miners, engineers, and maintenance workers grabbed whatever weapons they could find. They were not soldiers, but they were humans facing extinction. The colony's defense systems fought back with everything they had. Automated turrets swiveled, launching plasma rounds into the approaching alien ships. For a moment, it seemed like they might have a chance, but the Krell vessels were overwhelming, each one capable of destroying entire city blocks with a single shot. Jay continued her transmission, encoding critical data about the attackers. Their weapon signatures, ship, configurations, attack patterns, anything that might help future defenders. She worked with a desperate precision, knowing each second could mean the difference between warning humanity and total extinction. A young boy ran past her station, crying and looking for his parents. Somewhere in the distance, a child's scream was cut short by another explosion. The colonists were being systematically eliminated. Captain Park made a critical decision. "Emergency Protocol Alpha 9, he commanded. This was a last resort directive. Destroy all critical technology and data to prevent it from falling into enemy hands. Research databases, colony maps, advanced terraforming equipment, all would be vaporized. The Krell ships moved with cold, calculated efficiency. They weren't just destroying the colony, they were erasing its existence. Each blast seemed methodical, designed to leave nothing behind. Jay's fingers flew across the communication panel. She managed to compress the most critical data into a micro-quantum transmitter, a device small enough to potentially survive the coming destruction. If they could send just a fragment of information back to Earth, it might be enough. Outside, the colony burned. Years of human effort, agricultural domes, research centers, living quarters disappeared in moments. The Krell showed no interest in capturing, no desire for prisoners. Their goal was complete annihilation. A final massive explosion tore through the main communication center. Captain Park saw Jay dive for cover as equipment exploded around her. He ran towards her, knowing their chances of survival were virtually zero. The last transmission burst from the colony, a compressed data packet shooting into deep space. A final message, a final hope. Moments later, New Horizon Colony ceased to exist. In the vast emptiness of space, a tiny data signal raced towards Earth, the only surviving witness to humanity's first encounter with the Krell. The colony was gone, but the message remained, and Earth would receive it. The transmission arrived at Earth's Central Military Command like a thunderbolt. Admiral Day Cho studied the compressed data file, her weathered fingers tracing the encrypted message from New Horizon Colony. The room around her grew silent as holographic displays revealed the brutal details of the alien attack. Outside the command center, military factories roared to life. Massive construction platforms began assembling ships unlike anything humanity had ever seen. These were not exploratory vessels or diplomatic shuttles. These were weapons of pure vengeance. Lieutenant Sung Wei watched the construction with a personal intensity. His sister had been among the colonists on New Horizon. The pain of loss burned in his eyes, transforming into a cold determination that filled every movement. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was a man seeking revenge. The military leadership worked with unprecedented speed. Normal bureaucratic processes disappeared. Funding was unlimited. Technology that had been decades away from deployment was suddenly fast-tracked. Advanced quantum drive systems, experimental weapon technologies, stealth configurations all became priority projects. "We're building more than a fleet," Admiral Cho told her senior commanders. "We're creating a message, a warning to any civilization that thinks humanity can be easily destroyed." Recruitment became intense. Veterans from previous conflicts, specialists. In alien technologies, soldiers with personal losses, they all volunteered. The military screening process became brutal. Only the most skilled, the most motivated would be selected. Sung Wei passed through multiple evaluation stages: psychological tests, physical examinations, tactical simulations. He excelled in every challenge. His personal loss transformed into a laser-focused determination that impressed even the most hardened military commanders. The ships taking shape were unlike traditional human designs. Sleek, angular structures incorporated materials that could bend light, absorb energy, and transform instantly. Each vessel was essentially a mobile weapon platform, capable of destroying entire planetary defense systems. Intelligence teams worked around the clock. The compressed data from New Horizon provided crucial information about the Krell, their weapon signatures, ship configurations, potential technological weaknesses. Every detail was analyzed, every possibility explored. Advanced artificial intelligence systems began running thousands of potential battle scenarios. Complex algorithms calculated attack strategies, potential defensive maneuvers, and optimal engagement techniques. The computers worked without rest, generating increasingly sophisticated battle plans. Weapon designers created technologies that pushed the boundaries of human understanding. Matter disruption cannons, quantum entanglement, missiles. Energy systems that could convert entire planetary surfaces into radioactive glass. These were not tools of war. They were instruments of total destruction. The mood across Earth was different. No panic, no fear, just a collective resolve that burned with quiet intensity. Governments united. Resources were pooled. The entire human civilization seemed to move with a single purpose. Sung Wei trained alongside other selected soldiers. They weren't just preparing for a mission, they were preparing to send a message written in fire and destruction. Each training exercise became more intense, more brutal than the last. Admiral Cho reviewed the final fleet configurations. Hundreds of ships, each one a technological marvel. Thousands of soldiers, each one carrying the weight of New Horizons. Destruction. The fleet wasn't just a military operation. It was humanity's response to an existential threat. "We will remind the universe," she told her commanders, "that attacking humanity comes with a price." The first ships began final preparations. Quantum drives hummed with potential energy. Weapon systems came online. Soldiers checked their equipment, their faces showing a mix of determination and controlled anger. They were no longer just a military fleet. They were a fleet of vengeance. And they were ready. The human fleet moved like a ghost through the darkness of space. Yoon-ji, the intelligence officer, watched the quantum navigation systems with unblinking concentration. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, plotting a course that would make their approach invisible to even the most advanced alien detection systems. Sophisticated stealth technologies wrapped around each ship like an invisible skin. Light bent around their hulls. Radar signals scattered. Thermal signatures disappeared. They were moving shadows in the infinite blackness of space, approaching the heart of Krell territory without so much as a whisper. Lieutenant Sung Wei stood on the bridge, his hand resting near a weapon control panel. The ship felt different from anything he'd experienced before. quiet, tense like a predator waiting to strike. Every system was designed for one purpose: total surprise and maximum destruction. The quantum navigation system was a marvel of human engineering. It could predict and manipulate space-time fractures, allowing the fleet to slip between dimensional boundaries. Traditional space travel looked primitive by comparison. Where other civilizations would take months to cross a sector, these ships could traverse entire systems in moments. Yunji's calculations were precise. She had spent months studying every piece of data from the New Horizon transmission. Krell defense networks, planetary shield configurations, communication frequencies, nothing was left to chance. Each potential detection point was mapped, each possible interception route analyzed and countered. "We're approaching the outer defense perimeter," she announced, her voice calm and controlled. The bridge crew remained silent, each person understanding the critical nature of their mission. Advanced sensor drones, tiny, nearly undetectable machines, had been launched weeks earlier. They gathered intelligence, creating a comprehensive map of Krell defensive capabilities. These silent watchers transmitted data continuously, building a picture of an alien civilization that believed itself completely secure. The Krell had no idea what was coming. Sung Wei reviewed the mission parameters: total destruction of military infrastructure, elimination of command centers, a strategic strike that would cripple the alien civilization's ability to wage war. This wasn't just revenge, it was a surgical strike designed to send a message: quantum. Entanglement communications allowed the fleet to maintain perfect coordination. No radio signals, no traditional communication methods that could be intercepted. They moved as a single organism, each ship aware of the other's positions and intentions. Admiral Cho's voice came through the internal communication system. "Maintain absolute silence. We will not give them a single opportunity to detect us." The closer they got to Krell territory, the more tense the atmosphere became. Soldiers checked equipment. Weapon systems ran final diagnostics. Everyone knew the stakes. A single mistake could compromise the entire mission. Yunji's screen showed the approaching Krell defense network: massive sensor arrays, orbital platforms, quantum detection grids, a system that had been considered impenetrable. But human technology had evolved. Where the Krell saw impenetrable defenses, the fleet saw nothing more than an elaborate puzzle waiting to be solved. "Quantum slip approach in 3 minutes," she reported. The bridge crew tensed. This was the most critical moment. A microsecond miscalculation could reveal their position. Sung Wei thought about New Horizon, about the families destroyed, about the colony that had been erased from existence. His grip tightened on the weapon control panel. The fleet continued its silent approach, invisible, undetectable, a weapon of pure vengeance moving through the darkness. The Krell would never see them coming. The moment arrived with complete silence. Ki-hoon's hands moved across the weapon control system with surgical precision. Around him, the ship hummed with potential energy. Hundreds of vessels hung motionless in space, positioned with mathematical perfection around the unsuspecting Krell defensive network. First came the quantum disruptors. Invisible waves of energy penetrated the Krell shield systems before they could even recognize a threat. Defensive platforms that had stood for generations suddenly found their communication networks collapsing from within. "Weapon systems activated," Ki-hoon announced. His voice remained calm, almost clinical. The first visual strike came like a thunderbolt. Massive energy weapons punched through the Krell's outer defense rings. Entire orbital platforms exploded in brilliant cascades of light and fragmented metal. Where complex defensive structures had existed moments before, now only expanding clouds of debris remained. Krell communication channels erupted in confusion. Their advanced tracking systems, once considered the most sophisticated in the known galaxy, suddenly became useless. The human fleet moved with a coordination that seemed almost impossible, striking multiple critical points simultaneously. Lieutenant Sung Wei watched tactical displays showing the progression of attacks. Each strike was calculated, removing the Krell's ability to respond or counterattack. They weren't just destroying military infrastructure, they were systematically dismantling an entire civilization's defensive capabilities. Quantum entanglement missiles followed the initial strike. These weren't traditional weapons. They could simultaneously exist in multiple points, attacking critical systems across different dimensional frequencies. Krell technology, for all its advancement, had no defense against such an approach. Primary communication centers neutralized, reported a tactical officer. The speed was devastating. Within minutes, what had been considered an impenetrable defensive network crumbled like glass. The Krell military leadership found themselves suddenly blind, deaf, and increasingly helpless. Ji-Hoon's weapon systems continued their precise destruction. Orbital stations, planetary defense platforms, military communication hubs. Each target was eliminated with surgical efficiency. No wasted energy, no unnecessary destruction. Every strike had a specific, strategic purpose. Sensor data showed Krell ships attempting to scramble, but their coordination was already destroyed. Where once they moved as a unified force, now they were isolated, confused, unable to mount any meaningful resistance. Secondary targets confirmed, Sung Wei reported. Proceeding with infrastructure, elimination. The human fleet moved like a perfectly synchronized machine. Each ship knew its role. Each weapon system operated with calculated precision. They were delivering a message written in fire and destruction. Attacking humanity would come with an unimaginable price. Massive energy weapons continued their work. Planetary defense systems disappeared. Military complexes were reduced to molten slag. The Krell watched in horror as their entire defensive infrastructure collapsed around them. Admiral Cho's voice came through the communication system. Continue mission parameters. Total strategic elimination. Ji-Hoon's hands never stopped moving. Weapon systems cycled continuously, each strike more precise than the last. The tactical displays showed a systematic breakdown of Krell military capabilities. The first strike was not just an attack. It was a complete demolition of an entire civilization's ability to wage war. Sung Wei looked at the displays. Where complex Krell defensive networks had existed moments before, now only expanding clouds of debris remained. No mercy. No negotiation. Just total, absolute destruction. A message was being sent, clear and uncompromising. Do not attack humanity. The cost will be total. The final assault was nothing short of total annihilation. Admiral Dae Cho stood on the bridge, her eyes cold and calculating. The remaining Krell infrastructure burned like 1,000 dying stars. Each explosion represented more than military targets. They were monuments to human resilience. Complete destruction of primary and secondary targets, reported Lieutenant Sung Wei. His voice carried no emotion, just clinical precision. The human fleet moved with ruthless efficiency. Where Krell cities once stood, now only molten landscapes, remained. Planetary defense systems disappeared in cascading waves of quantum-powered destruction. No mercy, no negotiation. Pure strategic elimination. Ji-Hoon's weapon systems continued their precise strikes. Massive energy weapons carved through planetary surfaces, transforming complex civilizations into radioactive wastelands. Each strike was calculated, each movement predetermined. Communication specialist Yoon-ji broadcast a single message across all Krell communication frequencies. Its content was simple and brutal. You destroyed our colony. We destroyed your world. The message echoed through space, a warning to any civilization contemplating aggression against humanity. Entire Krell planetary systems collapsed. Advanced. Technologies that had taken centuries to develop disappeared in moments. Their scientific achievements, their cultural centers, their entire civilization, reduced to cosmic dust. Sung Wei watched the tactical displays. Each destroyed target represented a piece of vengeance for New Horizon colony. The soldiers around him moved with a cold, controlled fury. They weren't just military personnel. They were instruments of collective human rage. Admiral Cho's orders were precise. Leave nothing. Absolutely nothing. The fleet's approach was surgical. They weren't just destroying military targets. They were systematically eliminating every possible method of Krell reconstruction or resistance. Research facilities, communication networks, technological archives, all vanished. Quantum weapons transformed entire planetary surfaces. Where complex ecosystems and advanced cities had existed, now only scorched landscapes remained. The destruction was total and absolute. Mission parameters approaching final stages, Yoon-ji reported. The last Krell defensive platforms disappeared. Their most advanced ships became expanding clouds of radioactive debris. No survivors. No potential for future retaliation. Sung-Wei thought about the colonists of New Horizon, about families destroyed, about decades of human settlement erased in moments. Each destroyed Krell target was a memory of that lost colony. Admiral Cho's final transmission was clear. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. The fleet moved like a precise, merciless machine. No emotions, no hesitation, just complete, total vengeance. As the last Krell systems collapsed, a strange silence descended. The human fleet had done more than destroy an enemy. They had sent a message that would echo through the galaxy for generations. Attack humanity, and the price will be total extinction. The fleet began its return journey, quiet, controlled, victorious. New Horizon was avenged.